Hello everyone, and welcome to another Citizen Friday. Today we don't have a tutorial for you, but we have another resource. And what I wanted to do was just give you a quick run through of what that resource is and how you can use it. This resource you probably already recognize as the robot character that we've been using for Unity Cookie, and we've previewed a little bit on Blender Cookie a couple of different times now. And this is a character that we're finally calling Vonn-901. It's based on a concept from our own Tim Von Ruden, who you may remember did a exclusive tutorial series on creating the concept art for this entire robot. And I've then taken the robot, modeled it, animated it, and textured it, and prepared it for Unity 3D, such that it's all ready to go as a single package that you can go ahead and just import right into Unity, including all animations, all textures, etc., and use in your game. It's already set up such that it's ready for a playable character. You can just basically throw on your character controllers, or there's a custom script that comes with it that includes most of that stuff for you. So what I want to do is just give you a quick run through first on how to use it in Unity, and then also breaking down the scene a little bit in Blender for you if you wanted to go in and do a little bit of customization on it or whatnot. So first in Unity, or actually let me just in the Explorer, here is the Unity package that you'll find if you go ahead and download the source files above, and all you need to do is go ahead and just double click it, and it will then choose to import all of this package into your current project in Unity. So if you don't want to mess up a pre-existing project, you'll want to create a new one, or if you want to import it to the current one, just whatever project is open, and then it'll pop up with a list of all the different files that are in this package that you can import. And by default, you're probably just going to want to import all of them. If you're not using Blender or have no interest in using Blender, then you can probably uncheck the .blend. But other than that, you're probably going to want everything. So we're just going to go ahead and click Import. And this will take a second to import all of the assets into our project. Once it's done here in just a moment, we should be good to go. Just a second. And almost. There we go. Okay, so we've imported in a folder, which then includes materials for the two materials between the body and the head. We've got the actual robot file, the robot itself, and this one actually should be, this is just the FBX importer. So under the robot then, we have the head, the rig, the body, the actual meshes, all the animations. We've got a walk, a strafe right, strafe left, an idle, a run, and a jump animation. And then we have the custom script as well that Patrick Boulins wrote that sets up all the animations, sets up the crossfades, things like that. And this is actually essentially the same script that he wrote in the Unity Cookie tutorial on the Robot Series Part 1 for movement. And then we also have a folder with all the textures in it, with a diffuse, an emit map, a normal map, a spec map, diffuse, etc. So if we wanted to go ahead and just throw this in our scene, all we need to do is go ahead and grab our robot here and just drag it into our view. And then you can see it imported here. We can then go ahead and focus on it by hitting F and then just rotate around it. And you can see there, we can see that the position is not at 0, 0, 0, so we might go ahead and just change that. 0, 0, and 0. There we are. Then we can focus back in on it. Okay, let's go and grab our camera, and let's just zoom that in just a little bit. There we go. There we go. Grab the Z-axis, bring it in, bring it up along the Y. And if we were to go ahead and now just hit play to play our game, we should see the robot walking. So we've got our walk animation is set up, and right now our model is actually set to just play by default. So if you just grab the robot here, you can see that the animation, it's set to play automatically. The default animation is walk. So if we wanted this to be, the idle animation or something, we would probably go ahead and underneath the robot here, just pull in idle, drag that in, and then you can go ahead and click play. And then that should now just play back the idle animation. Fantastic. Okay. If we toggle down the animations here, you can see all of our different animations. We've got idle, jump, run, strafe, strafe R, walk, etc. If you wanted to go ahead and see what each of these animations look like, you can go right over to the window and choose the animation window. And then with the robot selected in the hierarchy, you can just choose any one of these animations and then just click play, and it'll play it back in the viewport. Now you will notice, and maybe somebody has an answer for this, the idle animation does not actually loop completely when you play back in the animation editor, because the preview range apparently is not quite long enough. But when you play it back in the game, it does actually loop. We can then choose, anyone to jump and turn off record and then just click play. You can see him jumping. We can grab the run animation. You can see him running, etc. So we've got all these different animations that are set up. They're fairly basic. They're not crazy polished, but we're going to continue upgrading this. One of our hopes for this actually Unity package is that every few months or every month or so we'll release basically a new version of Vonn-901 with improved animations, improved rigs, maybe new texture maps, maybe additions to the model. So basically we'll just continue upgrading him such that this character will become a staple on Unity Cookie that we'll be able to use for various projects. Anytime we need to demonstrate a character, we can use this guy. And so you should be seeing him around quite a bit, actually. But he's also, as citizen members, you guys actually get full access to him. You can use him in any project you want, and pretty much, free to use. So that's it in Unity. Oh, one thing actually, let me go ahead and just set up a couple of lights here in our scene just so that you can see it. We do have the full spec maps and everything set up. If we go into the materials here for the robot, we'll just grab the body diffuse. You can see that it's set up with a self-illuminating self-illuminating bumped specular shader, such that it's got the diffuse map along with a spec map in the alpha channel of the diffuse. It then has an illumination map, again in the alpha channel of the map here. For this is basically the emit map. And then it has a normal map also included, and this is the same for the head and the body map. You can see the material here. And if we then go in and add in from the game object, create other, and just choose a point light, then we'll just move this over here, move this up. You can see our spec shader coming in through there where we've got the highlights on the head and such. If we move it back, we can see here just a little bit. There you go. You can see the spec coming out in the Vonn-901. And so we've got all the spec maps, the emit maps, and diffuse maps all set up, along with the normal maps as well. And so he should look pretty good in game. Part of it's going to depend on your lighting, of course, and then also having a environment to put him in. As the character is right now, if you wanted to pull up either the Angry Bots demo or the boot camp demo, he actually looks pretty good right in game. You just throw him in. You could go ahead and replace the default character if you wanted and start playing with him. So that's it for the Unity side. Now you can just do whatever you want with him. But let's go ahead and take a look at the Blender side. So in Blender, we can see our character, and I've got it set up with GLSL shading here in the viewport. Oops, get rid of that. There we go. Okay, so we set up with GLSL shading here in the viewport such that you can see all the textures. If we select the model, here we go, you can go over to the material. You'll see that there's a mesh for the body and a mesh for the head. There's a single material with body or head for each one. Under the textures then we have a body normal, body diffuse, body spec. Same thing for the head, each attributed to their individual channels such that they're affecting the correct ones. Essentially meaning that it's set up basically in Blender to mimic the same thing in Unity. So these settings do not actually have an effect on the Unity export, but this just allows us to preview it in Blender very similar to how it would look in Unity. We have a couple lights in our scene. We've got a hemi light just for some basic kind of global illumination of sorts. And then we have a spotlight, which is targeted to an empty right about in his torso. And if you grab this spotlight, we can just actually unhide it real quick. There we go. You can grab it, and then you can just move it around, and it automatically points right at the empty. You can see that spec map taken into play right around the eyes and such. And so you can then just adjust that any way you want. Again, really just for previewing your scene. Or if you wanted, you could actually go ahead and render him here in Blender in any kind of scene. You could, if you wanted, you could set it up to work in the Blender game engine probably. You can do whatever you want. But let's look at actually how some of this is constructed. So I've gone in and created a custom rig done by yours truly. This rig will not stand up to any of those by, say, Nathan Vagdal or Bassam Kardali, if any of you are familiar with them. Two very talented riggers in the Blender world. But hopefully it'll work for most things that you want to do. We've got several different bones here that I've set up with bone groups such that blues are all of the FK bones, or the primary kind of animation bones. Any extras such as the arm and knee IK targets here are all green, or extra kind of animation bones there in the fingers, and then the IK bones are all red. So if you were to grab, say, one of the red bones in the hand and then just move it over, you can move the entire arm. Same thing here with the foot. You can grab one of the feet, move the entire thing. These do have reverse foot rolls on them, such you can grab one of the foot bones and then just rotate it up, and you can go up on the toes, or you rotate it back and go back on the heel. Allows for some fairly fun animation. We've got the knee targets right in here, which currently are affecting the foot, even though they shouldn't be. So this is, one of the errors that I need to resolve here in the rig. And actually, you can see that it affects the foot on one of them, but not on the other. So, I'll figure out what's up with that and then get that fixed. Here in the hips, we're able to then just rotate the hips, which you'll notice each one of these spine bones actually has a copy rotation constraint on the hips with a subtle influence such that we're getting this kind of bending in the coil there. We then also have the torso bone, which allows us just to make some adjustments as well. Need to get some fine-tuning right in here, but for the time being it works pretty well, particularly since you won't be rotating the torso like this too much generally unless you're also rotating the hips. We also have then the neck bone, which allows us to move the head around, and then obviously the head bone as well. On the fingers then, we have basically 3 bones per finger. There's first the blue FK bone, which, just kind of zoom in here. If we rotate around the local x-axis, allows us just to bend the entire finger, or you can then bend each joint within the finger any little bit that you want. So each of these basically are set up with a copy rotation constraint set to this bone, such that as this one rotates, these both rotate, but they also have a offset enabled such that we can rotate them to create an offset and still have them affected by the main parent bone. So that's it for the rig. It's pretty easy to use. It also includes all of the animations. So each animation for this character is included as an action on the armature. You can see here in the action editor, we have the idle, the jump, the run, the strafe, the walk, etc. If we grab the run, we can go ahead and then just play it back. You'll see it runs. We'll probably want to, if you were working on this, you would want to go ahead and set a preview range or just the in frame. So you can select the last keyframe, go back 1 frame, and then hit E to set the in frame. That way it'll loop just fine. You can play this back. You notice it's playing back in the viewport only at like 13 to 18 frames a second, where this animation is actually animated at 30 frames per second. So that's why it looks definitely quite a bit slower here in the viewport. But that's pretty much it. You can work on any one of these animations. If you wanted to add your own animations, all you would need to do would be to click the plus sign, rename it, and animate away. The one key point that I'll mention, just so that you don't lose any animations when you're going, is after you close out of the animation, such that, if I wanted to, work on a new animation, I would click the X to remove that action from the active spot, and then I would go in and add a new one. But when you do that, if you were to not have this set as a fake user, or basically just as a, we're saving it, if it's not set as a fake user like this, and I click the X to remove it, you'll notice that I have a 0 next to the run now, which means that there is no object or rig or anything like that that's referencing this run, which is not necessarily a problem initially, except that if we were to reload our file, that animation would now be deleted. So we just need to be sure that we need to set this as a fake user, such that Blender thinks that something is referencing that animation and doesn't consider it just extraneous data that will be removed upon a save and load. But that's it. I hope that you enjoy this. Again, we'll be releasing, kind of updates to Mr. T Vonn-9 as we go along. I hope that you guys enjoy this. It's pretty much ready to throw right into a game and kind of do whatever you want with it. So I've had a lot of fun working with him just slowly over the last few months. I know Tim had a lot of fun designing him and doing the tutorials on the exclusive, and I'm actually really looking forward to doing a bunch of additional work with this guy and releasing an update here in the coming months. So thanks so much. I hope you enjoy it, and I look forward to seeing what you do with him.